Hey class, it is Monday for World History class. Sorry, I have something in my eye. And we're going to be talking about some really fun stuff this week. And you'll see the rest of the week we're going to be skipping around a little bit throughout the next chapter. And we're going to move right into the World Wars for your last 2 weeks. And we'll kind of be skipping around for some of that too, just that way we can hit on the really big parts. Some of this is so fun, and I wish we had more time to dive into it, but we're just going to hit on the big stuff. So if you'll go ahead and turn in your books to page 406. Some of this might be a review if you've had this in maybe a science class, so the first day shouldn't be too bad. We are starting with, on 406, with Charles Darwin, and he created the origin of species, and this idea of evolution, he really took that on and founded that and promoted it. And basically, it's just that man evolved to the survival of the fittest, so it would be under that materialistic worldview that we talked about before, a material worldview where everything's just what it is, what you see, and there's nothing more, there's nothing spiritual to it, it's just it is what you see, and that's the end to it. And but people really started believing that, especially when the time it came out, there was a lot of technology going on, as you guys have seen, and that there was a lot more people being able to get jobs, and so it did seem like the world in some ways was getting better and evolving to a better society. But obviously we know that even if the material stuff gets better, our hearts only get better with Jesus. So that was what he kind of missed out on. And so moving on from that, Dmitri Mendeleev, I can't say his name, Mendeleev or something, I can't say his name, but he made the periodic table of elements, and so that's probably something you studied. I know when I was in 8th grade, that was something we began to study in 8th grade. That's probably something that you've studied in Miss Wood's class, and I know when I was in high school, we studied that probably my sophomore-ish year, so I think my freshman year we might have studied it a little bit, but it's something that it'll come back up in all your science classes from here on out. And Perry and Marie Curie founded radioactive elements. I remember when I was a little girl, actually, there was all these different books in our library at school, in my elementary school, that had different books on different historical figures, and some of them had to do with science. And I remember reading a book on her when I was little and thinking she was just so cool because she was a woman, and typically back then women didn't really get credited for discovering a lot of things, and so I thought she was super awesome. And Albert Einstein, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, his picture is pretty famous, and he created E=mc², which is basically this idea that energy equals mass times the speed of light. I remember when I was in chemistry class, when I was in high school, our teacher actually sat on the board and she did this big long equation using that and tried to calculate that. I'm not a math person, so that was far beyond anything of my wildest dreams. But I think it's awesome that he founded that, and that there's all these equations that people can come up with that is way beyond my brain. Obviously, anytime that there's scientific discoveries and learning about those things, society does evolve from that, because as you guys know, something that they're trying to find right now is a vaccine for the coronavirus, or some type of medicine that they can use. And so obviously that takes a lot of science and a lot of experimenting to see what kinds of things work, and what kind of virus or what kind of medicine kill this virus, and that sort of thing. And obviously that anytime that there's a scientific discovery of any sort, it does change society, because it helps them either get healthier, or you figure out, oh, that's bad for you, you don't need to be around that, like radiation, things like that. So it obviously does always have an impact on society. Realism was a part of the arts, and so we've discovered some of the arts in here before. So realism really tried to focus on the reality of life. So it didn't just paint this real pretty picture of something that wasn't really going on. They tried to really try to paint this picture of the real society of Europe. And so it showed the dark and the ugly of it, and it showed poverty and injustice. And one of the major writers of that time was Charles Dickens, which obviously if you've ever read The Christmas Carol or seen The Christmas Carol, I'm hoping I can send you guys a clip of, there's several renditions of it now, and even a Pigeon Forge a few years ago, Dollywood had a play of the Christmas Carol. It's one of my favorite stories. I love Tiny Tim. I love the story of the Christmas Carol. I love that the Scrooge gets better. I love the redemption of the Christmas Carol, but it does show the ugliness of that they treated people that were crippled like that, and people that had children who were crippled. They didn't take care of them, and they weren't paid well, and so it did show a lot of the ugliness of it, but it had a really good ending. That's what realism strives to do, though. It didn't necessarily always want everything to seem hunky-dory when it wasn't. And so that is all you have to read for today. And we're going to do Chapter 18, Activity 3. And I'll be sending you guys some links so you guys can see some of the stuff going on. I hope I can find a video of the Christmas Carol and send it to you, because if you've never seen it, it's really good. So you guys should watch that. But that's all you have for today. See you tomorrow.